Critical update alert. This is breaking and it affects every XRP holder deeply. If you hold only 150 XRP, this could be the moment that decides whether your position becomes legendary or forgotten, because what's coming isn't hype, it's a mathematical choke point. In the next 60 seconds, you're going to want to hold on tight, because what I'm about to reveal might be the last time this price looks remotely attainable. If you click away now, you'll miss what could be the single most important breakdown about XRP anywhere online. At the time of recording, XRP is trading around $2.68, but it's not the price that matters anymore. It's the supply dynamic quietly forming beneath the surface. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research. And before we dive in, make sure you like and subscribe right now so you don't miss the next critical drop. It really helps push this message to the masses, and every subscriber here is part of the movement waking up before the system flips. Now here's what's actually happening. For months, Ripple has been laying the groundwork for something few people are connecting the dots on, a global revaluation event that could cause XRP to be repriced like gold. This isn't about hype cycles or speculation. This is about monetary function. When gold was repriced in the 1930s, it didn't happen because someone decided to moon it on a chart. It happened because the structure of the financial system demanded it. The US dollar was being redefined. Liquidity had to be reset to balance against new reserves. That's exactly what's happening now, only this time it's digital. Think about it. Central banks are actively preparing for a new settlement layer. Ripple is already embedded in over 70-plus corridors, spanning everything from remittance networks in Asia to institutional rails across the EU and Africa. The Bank of England, the BIS Innovation Hub, and the IMF have all published frameworks for tokenized reserves and real-time liquidity mechanisms. And buried within those documents are references to neutral bridge assets, the same language Ripple has used for years. What this means is simple but monumental. The world is building a multi-asset financial internet, and XRP is sitting in the same position gold once did, as the collateral layer that balances global value exchange. Except, this time, it's instantaneous, traceable, and programmable. Here's where the choke point forms. Every central bank preparing to issue a digital currency still needs a neutral settlement rail. None of them want to rely on the US dollar alone. None of them want volatility from unregulated tokens. What they need is a liquidity standard, something trusted, fast, and liquid across jurisdictions. That's why XRP is being positioned as digital gold for value transfer. Now here's the twist you're not going to want to miss. Global liquidity itself is being tokenized. JP Morgan, Citi, HSBC, and the Monetary Authority of Singapore all have pilot programs for tokenized treasuries and real-world asset settlement. When those tokens move between banks, they require a settlement bridge that holds stable value yet clears instantly. That's XRP's entire reason for existence. The same way gold once underpinned fiat confidence, XRP is now quietly underpinning the confidence of digital value transfer. And when systems move from testing to production, which BIS documents indicate is targeted between late 2025 and early 2026, you can't have an asset settling trillion-dollar flows priced like a meme coin. The math doesn't work. This is why insiders keep referring to repricing events. It's not a pump, it's a systemic recalibration. When an asset becomes foundational, its valuation model changes from speculation to necessity. You're no longer valuing a token, you're valuing the throughput of the global financial system itself. And this is where most retail investors completely miss the plot. They still think of XRP as a trade, not an instrument. But institutions are preparing for something else entirely. Reserve absorption. Ripple's filings and patents describe automated market makers that stabilize corridors and adjust supply dynamically. The goal? To maintain deep liquidity as transactional volume scales. That requires reserves. And reserve demand always leads to revaluation. Remember, gold didn't reprice because of traders. It repriced because central banks redefined its role. Ripple isn't asking permission. It's being woven into the fabric of digital settlement itself. Hang tight, because this is where it gets really interesting. This is the part that flips everything you thought you knew about price potential. Because once those tokenized assets, stablecoins, and CBDCs start using XRP as their operational bridge, the market price can't stay speculative. It must reflect global liquidity coverage. Even conservative analysts from BIS and Accenture estimate that tokenized settlements could reach $30 to $50 trillion annually by the end of the decade. Now imagine just a fraction of that moving through an asset with a fixed supply of 100 billion tokens, where a large portion is already locked in custody, enterprise liquidity, and long-term holdings. The pressure isn't upward because of hype, it's upward because of mathematics. If you are enjoying this content, make sure that you like and subscribe this video. It really helps me get the message to the masses and is greatly appreciated. Here's the final layer, so don't click away just yet. You are going to want to see this because it makes this moment different from any other cycle. The convergence of gold logic and digital speed. The world once needed physical collateral to balance currencies. Now it needs digital collateral to balance data-driven value. When banks can move billions instantly across continents, they need a bridge that doesn't break. XRP isn't a bet anymore. It's becoming digital infrastructure. So when you see that vault door open in the thumbnail, think of it literally. Behind that door lies the foundation of the next monetary system. XRP is the digital gold bars being stacked quietly by the architects of the new financial order. Now let's break down the core mechanic behind this reprice event. Because once you understand how it happens, you'll never look at market cycles the same way again. When people talk about XRP being repriced like gold, it's not just a metaphor. It's a description of a liquidity repricing mechanism already visible in the way institutions accumulate collateral during system shifts. Here's the playbook. When new financial rails are built, the value of the underlying settlement medium must scale to meet transaction demand. Otherwise, the pipes choke. In the gold era, central banks literally had to reprice gold upward to match the expanding money supply. In the digital era, the same thing happens, only the supply is algorithmic and the scaling is global. XRP's ledger can process over 1,500 transactions per second with near zero cost, but the monetary depth, the notional value those transactions represent, must be balanced by price. That's why Ripple's ecosystem is being built like a liquidity lattice, not a simple payment network. Every corridor, whether it's connecting Japan to the Philippines or Europe to Latin America, adds layers of settlement volume that compound against finite supply. When that utility hits critical mass, you don't need hype to move the price. The function itself forces the market to adjust. The key concept here is reserve efficiency. XRP doesn't need to replace fiat, it just needs to balance it. Every tokenized dollar, euro, or yen that moves across RippleNet requires an offsetting liquidity buffer in XRP. Multiply that by every central bank and commercial institution migrating onto tokenized rails, and you start to see why this is a global repricing setup, not a price prediction. And here's where it ties directly to the gold analogy. Back in the 1930s, the US raised gold's official price from $20.67 to $35 per ounce, a 69% increase overnight. Why? To instantly revalue reserves and create liquidity without printing more paper. That's what's about to happen digitally, except the price peg will emerge organically through institutional demand. Ripple's AMM architecture ensures liquidity pools automatically rebalance to reflect corridor velocity. The higher the flow, the higher the valuation needed to stabilize it. That's the mathematical bottleneck, not hype, mechanics. And here's the other dynamic at play: institutional custody migration. Right now, large custodians like BNY Mellon, Standard Chartered, and SBI are moving digital assets off exchanges into private trust systems. This doesn't just reduce visible supply, it also prepares the groundwork for regulatory-grade valuation models, the same models used for commodities and reserves. Once XRP transitions from speculative trading to institutional reserve status, the market stops being priced by retail sentiment and starts being priced by throughput requirements. That's what reprice like gold really means. A liquidity recalibration driven by system integration, not speculation. Now here's the retention spike, because this is the part most people never hear. The same agencies that manage global settlements, the BIS, IMF, and ISO 2022 network, are standardizing how digital value is categorized across jurisdictions. Once XRP is included in those frameworks as a bridge or reserve instrument, it legally inherits a role similar to a digital monetary metal, and that reclassification alone could change everything about its value ceiling overnight. If you are enjoying this content, make sure that you like and subscribe this video. It really helps push this message to the masses and is greatly appreciated. So let's bring this home, because what you just heard isn't theory anymore. It's the quiet re-engineering of money itself, and XRP is sitting in the middle of it like the keystone of a new digital vault. Every few generations, the world redefines what it considers value. In the 1800s, it was land. In the 1900s, it was gold. Today, it's liquidity, the ability to move value instantly, globally, and trustlessly. That's the real wealth standard being built right now. And XRP isn't a side character in that story. It's the ledger on which the next financial internet will run. The reason this matters is because once a system like this locks in, it can't be undone. You can't uninvent global settlement rails any more than you can turn off the internet. And when those rails go live, the market will need to assign a fair value to the asset anchoring them. That's where the repricing happens. Not because of hype, but because mathematics meets inevitability. Imagine what happens when every tokenized treasury, bond, real estate asset, and currency needs a neutral bridge to move across borders. Imagine when banks can't operate without digital collateral the same way they once couldn't operate without gold reserves. When that day comes, XRP won't just participate in the system, it will define it. The question every viewer should be asking right now isn't if this happens. It's where will I be positioned when it does? Because once the switch flips, liquidity doesn't trickle, it floods. And when that day arrives, those who understood early will look back at prices like $2.68 and realize that was the bargain of a lifetime. Because every revolution, every paradigm shift, every moment when value is redefined has one common thread. The few who understood the infrastructure before the headlines were the ones who changed their lives forever. If you've been paying attention, you already know what time it is. The REPRICE event isn't coming someday in the future. It's being built right now. So if you believe in truth over noise, if you see where the world is heading before the crowd wakes up, make sure you like and subscribe right now to never miss crucial information. Every subscriber here isn't just part of an audience, you're part of the awakening of the Matrix movement. See you on the next one, brothers and sisters.